Hello, everybody. It is Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and we are back with Dr. Nick Borja, who is actually our new Director of Lifestyle Medicine here with the nonprofit. Hello, Dr. Nick.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. I'm eating plants as usual, so I'm feeling good, and I'm interested to hear about what you have to share with us today.
Yeah, great. Well, we have two new studies coming out of top journals that confirm what we are already well aware of, and that is that plant-based diets are incredibly important for cardiovascular health. So cardiovascular is a big word. When we use it, we're really talking about heart disease and stroke risk. Again, two great articles showing in overwhelming amounts of data that a plant-based diet can really protect you from risk of heart disease and stroke.
Okay, so what specifically about these is like a takeaway for us for this new release of information?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first study looked at what plant-based diets, what effect they have on our blood pressure. So they collected over 40 studies that analyzed different diets and their relationship to blood pressure. And what they found is, on average, plant-based diets that encourage eating plants and minimizing animal products in the diet, on average led to or were associated with, on average, about 9 millimeters of mercury lower systolic blood pressure and 6 millimeters of mercury lower diastolic pressure, which, sorry about the jargon, but what that essentially is equivalent to taking first-line medication for lowering blood pressure. So a plant-based diet is more or less equivalent to taking a pill for lowering your blood pressure.
And okay, and the way you described the diet that was used, it's just a general diet, right? It wasn't a real hyper-specific whole food plant-based, no oil, salt, or sugar, right? You're just talking about just a general plant-based diet, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the shortcomings with this kind of data. It really underestimates the potential for health benefits associated with a plant-based diet, because we know from small short-term studies like those that Dr. Barnard of the Physicians Committee has conducted, McDougall out in California, Dr. Baxter in Houston. Those are all studies that show that within a month you can get people to decrease or come off all of their blood pressure medications and still have a normal blood pressure. So we know that there's definitely more that you can do. But what is nice about these studies is that they take really diverse populations over time and bring them all together so that we can be really confident that there's a robust effect. Because obviously, as you probably know, a lot of people say, oh, that doesn't work for me, or, I don't know about that, that your data is anecdotal. And so what we get from these kinds of huge studies that, again, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of individuals studied when they put this data together, is that on average, you get a really significant benefit. What the authors in this study calculated is just by decreasing the risk of heart disease and stroke, there's a 7% lower risk of dying from any cause, just on the basis of eating a more plant-based diet. And again, there were individuals who experienced the benefit were still eating animal products, probably more than even the general recommendations as currently devised.
Yeah, because it's hard. I think it's hard for people to make a change, a life change, where you've had a whole lifetime of habits leading up to a certain point, and then try to make a drastic 180. But
Yeah.
it's comforting to know, it's hopeful and uplifting to know that even smaller changes like you're describing in the study lead to significant improvements in health. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, people can take a lot of, joy out of the fact that if they make relatively modest changes, they will see big benefits. And again, like we always talk about, whether we're talking about cancer risk or cognitive decline risk or what have you, or skin, the the benefits for blood pressure aren't just limited to blood pressure. You have a whole range of health benefits by virtue of adopting a more plant-based diet. So the side effects are much greater health in all these other arenas. But it is nice to know, because oftentimes people become interested in a more holistic approach to health when they have a specific problem. So, it's nice to be able to say, okay, this diet will address the specific problem that you're so apprehensive about.
Okay, and how does that relate to your overall immune system health? That's a big, hot topic right now because of COVID-19. Is it going to help out with that as well?
Well, of course, yeah, and that's part of what is so interesting about the direction scientific research has been going in human biology and physiology, is that we're finding that there are common pathways that both promote health and long-term chronic disease. And so it's the same issues that lead to greater risk for cardiovascular disease, lead to greater risk for Alzheimer's, lead to greater risk for cancer, lead to greater risk for pulmonary disease, kidney disease, and of course, immune system compromise. And those pathways include pathways around inflammation, hormonal dysregulation, nutritional deficiencies. So all of health connects, and of course you protect your cardiovascular health, and you're protecting yourself in all kinds of other ways. And then on top of that, we know specifically for this pandemic with this coronavirus, we're finding more and more information about how damaging this virus is for the heart. Two recent studies have just come out looking at doing autopsies of individuals who were infected with the virus, who were listed as having died of pneumonia, so lung complications, and who nevertheless were found to have a pretty significant viral burden in their heart tissue. And then in a different group, people who survived the virus and had MRIs, which are, an imaging study, a very accurate imaging study done of the heart to look for any signs of inflammation. And they found quite a bit of myocarditis, which means that the muscle tissue of the heart was significantly inflamed in these individuals who believed they had recovered from the disease completely. So we're finding that this disease is much more much more widespread throughout different organ systems than we previously thought.
Okay, well, it's like you said, what strikes me when you say this is that everything's connected. I think we have to seek a balance point, right? You can't just look at one health symptom in a vacuum, because it's part of the greater whole here. So, you're just going to, any step you take towards greater health is going to benefit you in maybe ways that you don't even know, that you'll soon find out. So that's awesome.
Yeah, really well said, Mike. That's absolutely right.
Okay, and then I also want to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because as you and I think both know, and I want to make sure we convey to the viewers out there, just because you've got rid of the animal products doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating in a healthy way, right? Because there's so much vegan junk food out there. I mean, you could have someone who is eating, let's say, I'm thinking in my mind of a whole food plant-based bad way of eating, which would be really salty nuts and seeds and avocados, like a diet based off of that. That's like the things you want to minimize. So you need to just be careful. You can't just hear one soundbite and think you know it all. It's a fairly complex way of operating the human body, and you need to take all these things into consideration, right?
Yeah, really well said. Yeah, I think that is often a concern. Individuals who avoid minimally processed foods but do eat cheese and animal products without realizing how processed those foods are. We have this idea of, the sort of the primitive person who, hunts and all this, but the meat and the other animal products like cheese that we consume here in the United States are incredibly processed. But in any case, those individuals may avoid grain, flour products and all the cakes and pancakes and muffins and so forth, and may say, well, I'm actually a healthy eater because I avoid those things. And they're right to some degree, because minimally those processed foods are unhealthy and should be avoided, vegan or not. But of course, the animal products, again, are incredibly unhealthy in their own way. And so we have to be aware that even though we're encouraging people to avoid animal products for a whole host of reasons, that doesn't make not plant-based products uniformly healthy.
Right.
So,
okay. But in general, I guess the more you move away from animal products and the more you move and eat and consume plant products, the better off your health. I think that's kind of what you're saying here. Is that right?
yeah, absolutely. And that actually, that's the summary of the second paper that I was mentioning earlier, is that essentially what these researchers did is, again, took 30 odd studies and looked at what are the benefits of eating protein that is plant-based versus protein that is animal product based. And what they found is there's a significant cardiovascular benefit to avoiding animal-based protein compared to plant-based protein. So your risk of dying of any cause goes down by 5% just by substituting 3% of your energy intake from animal products to plant products, which is just about 60 calories or 15 grams of protein, just making that one switch. So again, a modest change moving from animal products to plant products makes a big difference over the long term.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I guess this is called, is this correct, the totality of the evidence, looking at all these different things as a whole? And
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, typically these studies are in scientific jargon are called systematic reviews and meta-analyses, because they pull together all the data from a bunch of different studies, and it's considered one of the most powerful methodologies for arriving at a conclusion about the health benefits of one approach versus the other.
all right. Well, I thank you very much for your analysis of these studies and kind of putting it in at least much more layman's terms so that we can all understand. And then, of course, continuing to analyze the data as it comes in, because I would love to just get to the point where we get, or you get this out on the street. Word on the street is that, we want to stop eating animal products. We want to eat plants. We want to eat these types of plants. We know why, and then we're all better off for it. So I look forward to just helping society to move in that direction. So I thank you for your work in this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think this year in particular, because the new dietary guidelines are evolving as we speak and are being written as we speak, it's really important to emphasize to people how the science is here. It exists. There's no doubt about the benefits of a plant-based diet versus eating animal products. So we need to just be clear in the same way, public health officials have finally become very clear about the importance of social distancing, of wearing masks, washing your hands. This is basic measures that we should all be taking to improve our health.
All right. Well, thank you again. And you are a doctor of lifestyle medicine. You do work virtually. So if folks want to get in touch with you, they have specific medical or health questions, I mean, you can ask us all the questions you want here in the comments. But if you got specific ones that you want Dr. Borja to answer, how do they get in touch with you?
Please check out my website at Nick Borja, NickBorjamD.com. And there you can learn more about how I help people reach their best health. And if you're interested in scheduling a free consultation, there's an easy form to fill out and get in touch with me.
Okay, and then you have your services available virtually, is that right? So
absolutely,
you can help anyone anywhere?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's obviously the way the world is moving also into this through this pandemic is towards virtual platforms for just about everything. So that is
Yeah.
awesome that you can people can learn from you on a weekly basis here, and then they can get specific help from you directly. So I'm so glad I'm living in this world today.
Yeah, one of the benefits, I wasn't on top of this, but the pandemic forced me to go in this direction, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So really happy to have a expanded reach.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. We'll see you soon in our next talk.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.